Hello and welcome to the Gig Stories podcast, as always with your wonderful hosts, or wonderful host, Chris Payne, and then me, the sidekick.
Sidekick? Are you the sidekick?
Yeah, I am. I am the sidekick. Now, for those of you who have listened from the beginning and have listened to every episode, it's massive. I mean, it goes viral after every episode. People want to know which room in the house is Chris in today. and he's in, I think, what room position? I want to say room because some of them have been rooms, some of them have just been chained to radiators under duvets. And today you're in your son's room.
Yeah. I'm surrounded by guitars and dressing gowns, and guitars, dressing gowns, and Marvel.
This is so glamorous, isn't it? I've not had the conversation of podcasting because everyone can podcast. Is podcast show business? Because they say show business is glamorous, and I look at our Zoom screen, Chris, and I'm in my bedroom, you're in your son's bedroom. I'm not sure there's anything glamorous about this podcast, is there?
No, but as I've said before, we keep it real. We are grassroots here. We're grassroots. We're not the Premiership. We know that, but
We know that.
We're not the Premier League. We don't. But is that what we aspire to? Well, yes. Ain't gonna lie.
However, our guests, they definitely are glamorous and Premier League.
Yeah,
and today's is absolutely glamorous and Premier League guest. But more of that in a bit. Come on, let's talk gig news. My gig news is absolutely nothing because for the first time in a while, I've had almost 2 weeks of not going to a gig. Can you imagine? Can you imagine it?
Well, actually, no, I can't. At the moment, no. Again, if
but I'm
still. Be honest.
I've got. Well, we both might have one next week, and at the moment, that's a little bit secret. So, listener, will tell you about that on the next episode. But there's an exciting one on Monday night, and I won't spoil it for Chris, just in case. But my next planned one is Little Sims in the Albert Hall. And this middle-aged white man is getting ready to get down with Little Sims. I honestly, I can't wait. I'm looking forward to this so much. Her albums and this new album is just incredible. So yeah, that's my next dated one. But you, mister, have been out shooting, dancing, swinging your pants, haven't you?
Well, I don't know about dancing. I don't dance. I don't dance.
Shoot and swing your pants.
Yeah. I mean, I bust out the odd MC Hammer move when I have to. You know,
I wonder what you were going to say there. I bust out the old hip joint now and again.
Yeah.
I did wonder. I've given you a nice segue there. Bit of hip dancing to your gig the other night, of which I was very, very jealous of.
Oh, sorry. Which one?
Oh, which one? Shut up. Out of the ones you went to, you know the one I'm on about. What a front man. What a mover, groover. Still has the same haircut.
Honestly, I was thinking, so I went to Suede at Victoria Warehouse.
There it is, Brett Anderson.
There we go. And honestly, he started the gig at 100 miles an hour. I mean, he was drenched by the third tune. Honestly, he was just incredible.
What did they come on to?
Trash, I think.
No.
Let me just double check. I'm gonna check the set list here.
Was it No Frills, Lights Down, bam, they're there, into Trash?
It started with Trash, then Film Star, then Lazy. So they were the three tunes that I photographed, and oh my god, they were fantastic. And one of those gigs where feel a bit guilty for the rest of the band, because the rest of the band are great, but it's all about Brett. You know,
say what you really mean.
Well,
say what you really mean. They're all old codgers. The rest of the band are all old codgers, and Brett somehow manages to still be 21. and
Well,
swing his hips.
I will get on to the rest of the band in a second, but yeah,
Yeah.
he was just incredible and an absolute gift for a photographer. So I mentioned to you earlier in the week that I'd never photographed them, so they were another one of these bands that I really wanted to snap. But also I've only seen them once. I can't believe that, but I've only seen them once
In your lifetime.
in my life. In my
What?
life, yeah,
Once in your life.
yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, and I just checked I checked my my book, my big black book, and it
Did
was
you
just
check your Excel spreadsheet?
no, I didn't have time for that, Alex. I just went straight to the book. And
We'll refer back to that one later, listener.
yeah, so it was December '94 that I saw them, and so when I mentioned
Ooh, okay.
mentioned to you about me seeing them way back, and you said was Bernard Butler with them at that point, and I was like, do you know what? I don't think he was, because I think around about that time or very soon after, McCalmont and Butler were a thing. And so I've been thinking about that since and thinking it's really odd that Bernard Butler is still absolutely intrinsically associated with
Yes.
Suede, and yet he's not been a part of the band for 27 years.
Good maths.
Yeah, 27 years. And so I refreshed my memory about what happened, and checking out what the timings were and all that kind of stuff. And so when he left in 94, Richard Oakes took his place. Do you remember this? Richard Oakes took his
Oh,
place,
yes.
and he was 17. And the way that he got the gig was he sent like an audition tape to the fan club, to the Suede fan club. He was living in Dorset or something like that.
Right.
And then Simon Gilbert, the drummer, he heard it and thought it was an early Suede demo that he'd sent in. So they thought
That's
his
bonkers.
playing was so close to Bernard Butler's, so they got him in and auditioned him, and then auditioned him again, and then he got the gig, and by September or October, he was out on tour with them, and has been part of the band for the last 27 years. But just the balls to just send a demo tape going, oh, I hear that you're looking for a guitarist. What about me? I'm still at school, but
Bizarre, that, isn't it?
yeah. But yeah, fair play. That was I'd forgotten, and I remember reading at the time that a 17-year-old had gone, yeah, I'll do it.
Yeah, I do remember that he was very, very young, but I can't remember. Yeah, I'd forgotten that was what he did.
Yeah,
I mean, that's
17.
That's the way to do it, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that reminds me of Clint Boone, previous guest, his stories of picking up Craig, their drummer, from school,
yeah,
and going to gigs. Oh, I love that. I love
yeah.
that. So they were absolutely fantastic then, were they, Suede?
They were fantastic. And I've been to Victoria Warehouse a few times for gigs, all photographing. So I photographed the Six Music Festival, which I think was one of the first times it was used as a venue. So that was way back in 2013, 2014. I can't remember.
Okay.
And so I've seen a couple of other kind of not headline gigs. So there was a kind of celebration of British music that was on. I think you might have been there, or no, there was a Whiskey Sessions. That was it.
That's the Whiskey Sessions. That's what I was at.
So Turin Breaks were playing there, and Badly Drawn Boy, and British Sea Power, I want to say. I think they might have played.
You can say what you want.
Yeah, and then the other one was a celebration of British music. So there was Black Grape and Primal Scream and Reverend and the Makers, and I think a lot of people have said about Victoria Warehouse, yeah, it's a great venue. In fact, a couple of guests I think have mentioned, yes, the sound's not fantastic, but the sound's not very good in there. The sound was great. The sound was really good.
I've not had bad sound. I've not experienced bad sound in the warehouse. I've seen Shed 7, Supergrass, Sam Fender,
Yeah.
the Whiskey Sessions. It's always been good sound when I've been there.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I was preparing myself because I'd heard it so many times, and also it had been a while since I'd been there before I heard anything in there, and thought, oh God, is it going to be a bit dodgy?
I
Absolutely
like it
not.
as a venue.
It was great.
I like it.
It was good. It was really good, and had great. I mean, it was a big operation. You know, it was. I remember it being a lot easier to get into a few years ago. But
Yes.
but the security staff were fantastic, and yeah, nothing but praise for Victoria Warehouse. So yeah, looking forward to going back again. Really good.
And what age was the youngest person you saw?
I ain't gonna lie, it was I wouldn't say elderly. I don't think but the average age was probably about my age, so around about 27.
50, 58.
Yeah. See, I went down, you went up.
It's so predictable.
Oh, but the other thing was, I got there because it took a while to get in. I just missed photographing the support, and
who was it?
Pretty
Amy
gutted.
Winehouse. Amy Winehouse.
Enough.
It was Amy Winehouse, wasn't it? Come on.
Nadine Shah. Oh, she was brilliant. She was so good. I know, and I got there.
Didn't get to shoot her.
No, and she was so compelling, and her voice was so good, and reminded me of a kind of, there's a real Susie Sue vibe, to her vocals, and but yeah, I loved it. So I'm definitely not going to miss her again.
She is incredible. I love Nadine Shah.
Yeah,
one of the best at the moment, I think.
Yeah, it was just live, really fresh.
She's incredible.
Yeah, I loved it. Really loved it. So yeah, like I say, I'm not going to miss her again. That I can't believe I've not seen her until now, to be honest.
I can't believe you didn't get there in time to shoot her. Shame on you, Christopher Payne. Shame on you.
We had delays at Cornbrook. That's all I can say.
We all have, I don't know, delays at Cornbrook or rashes on our whatever, but we've just got to get through it, haven't we? Just got to get through it.
Pomona had a rash.
Oh, not again. Oh, Crash. Oh, sorry. I thought you said Pomona had a rash. Anyway, moving on to today's episode.
Oh, no. No, we're not. No, we're not doing that.
Oh, gosh.
I haven't told you about the other gig.
You've been to another gig, have you, Christopher?
Yeah, the night before that, I went to Gorilla, and friend of the podcast,
oh my gosh,
guest, Ren Harview.
It just baffles me how this woman should be playing arenas. She shouldn't, because I wouldn't want to see her in an arena. But listener, if you have not heard our episode with Ren, go back and listen. And if by some chance you're not familiar with her music, get on to whatever you listen to music on now. She is incredible. And I bet she was exactly the same the other night in Gorilla. Was she? Perfect setting as well.
She was. Perfect setting. Actually, I felt like Gorilla, it would have almost been better if Gorilla was slightly bigger and everyone was at kind of cabaret seating, all round tables, almost like a jazz club. I mean, the warm-up before she came on, the music, I don't know if she chose the music or the venue chose the music, but it was absolutely perfect because they were playing kind of 1950s, 60s jazz. There was Miles Davis, Bertha the Cool playing.
She would have chosen that.
Yeah,
guaranteed.
I would have thought so.
Surely.
But it really,
she's so cool, so stylish.
Yeah, and but it really got you in the mood. The crowd were really warm towards her because a real homecoming gig for her.
Yeah,
and it was just knockout, and her voice was just bob on. Yeah,
I think that was the end of her tour, isn't this the end of the tour?
No, the very next night she was at Club Ivo Bach.
Oh, she was in Club Ivo Bach in Cardiff.
So I think she was about 4 or 5 gigs in, but she's still got a few to go.
Oh, get on the listings, and shame on me for not knowing them and having them to hand. Check her listings, and if you are anywhere nearby, honestly, go and see her. There's bands I recommend that I may think, oh, go and see this artist, see what you think. I like them. But with Ren, she's just fantastic, and I think everyone should hear her voice. Now, if I'm not mistaken, Chris, you have already uploaded some of your shots from the Suede gig and the Ren Harvey gig to the Gig Stories website. Is that correct?
I have. That is correct. There are more of Suede, I have to say, because the lighting was fantastic at Suede. At Gorilla, I got quite excited at the start, just before Ren came on, because the lighting was absolutely beautiful, and I thought, "Oh, here we go. This is going to be great." And then as soon as they started, it was really dark, and I mean, it suited the mood perfectly.
Yeah, that's what she likes. Yeah,
yeah, it suited the mood absolutely perfectly. But as a photographer, you just go, "Oh no!" And then the most annoying thing as a photographer is you finish your 3 songs. You can kind of go down the back, and then as soon as you've finished photographing, the light gets absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened. So there aren't as many of Ren, but there are a few there.
But there are a couple there that are belting. So get on the website, get on the website and have a look at all, because Chris is uploading ones, artist bands that are relevant to Gig Stories, but also I'm going to force him to make sure there's links to his website so you can see his other work. But yeah, there's some belters there, and you can go and see old Brett Anderson in his shaky hips.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, also, I've just got up the rest of Ren's gigs. So this podcast is out on Monday the 15th, and so on the 15th you can see her in Cambridge at the Portland Arms. Then next night she's in Guildford at the Boiler Room. Then next night Brighton. Next night St Albans, and then 23rd she's at the Cluny in Newcastle. Then 23rd she's at the Voodoo Rooms in Edinburgh, which is a great venue. And then 24th of November she finishes at the wonderful Broodnell Social Club
in Leeds.
So they're all the dates.
There's some opportunities there. So yeah, do get along. Along.
And Suede have got some gigs as well, but you know they'll be fine.
Right, moving on. They'll be fine. They'll be fine. And now I always enjoy our chats, but with today's guest, I enjoyed this chat, I think, more than ever, because we really get our geek on, and it was really like friends chatting about music, like it was with Sophie Williams. Anna Doble is our wonderful guest today, and if you are on social media and Twitter, you may have read and seen Anna, because she had a wonderful experience during lockdown where she listened to all her vinyl, and it's not just 4 or 5 bits of vinyl, is it, Chris?
No, well, it's nearly 300 LPs, and then when she finished all those LPs, she went on to her 12-inch singles, and then I think she went on to the 7 inches as well.
Yeah,
but she blogged about every single record, which is and she writes
amazing that
she writes so well. And then when I came to this late, so I came to it after she had completed this whole journey.
Right.
I keep on calling it a journey. Journey, but it is a journey through music, and I'd like the way that she's kind of put all the different styles and time periods together. Everyone arranges their records in a particular way, whether that's alphabetically or by genre or by chronological order or whatever.
Yes.
But when I was just looking through and reading the little blog posts that she did for each one, I was going, yeah, I want that on vinyl. I want that. Her vinyl collection.
It's an incredible collection, isn't it?
Beautiful. It's a great collection.
And we've put a link on our social media, but you should really go. Anna, by the way, is the digital editor at the BBC World Service. And if you go to Twitter, Anna Doble, Anna, ANNADOBLE, you'll find her there, and you'll find links to the blog there as well. But go and follow her because she's fab. But I just really enjoyed it. It was just a great chat. And we talk about, I mean, she had great first gigs. We talk about Blur and Oasis, but it may be in a slightly different way. And of course, of vinyl.
And her beloved Saint Etienne.
Exactly. Which just, again, fabulous. And the one thing I really love from this episode, which really put her up there as the perfect gig stories geek, was finding her review that she had written herself as a youngster of a certain gig. And when you listen on, you'll hear more about that. And just so much respect for her, and I love that she does that. But the important question is, does she have an Excel spreadsheet of all her gigs? Don't spoil it, Chris, for them. Do not spoil the answer to that. We are all on tenterhooks, waiting to find out if Anna does indeed have an Excel spreadsheet of all her gigs. Who knows?
Who knows?
And in the words of Chris Payne,
maybe we'll never know.
Exactly. So enjoy this episode. Here's Anna Doble. Hello and welcome to this episode of the Gig Stories podcast, as always with Chris and I. And joining us, we have the digital editor of the BBC World Service. Sounds great, that, doesn't it? That's really good. Also, lover of music, podcast, tennis, and for her sins, says this Cardiff City fan, Leeds United. Anna Doble, hello, welcome.
Hello, Alex and Chris. I can't believe you brought football into this so soon.
I'm absolutely bringing it in.
It was like one of those crunching tackles at the start of a game. You just, make your presence felt.
Player would absolutely do. It's got to be said. There's not many teams I dislike more than Liverpool, and there's not. Liverpool are number one, and then number two, Leeds United. I have to.
Guess who my other team are?
Liverpool.
Yeah, my parents, my mum. Not that they give a damn about sports, or no. To be fair, they're not into football. But mum from Leeds, dad from Liverpool. So
you're a half and half scarf.
That's oh yeah, lovely. We all love those.
Well, I'm Liverpool, so Alex is really not enjoying himself at the moment.
No, I'm not jealous of your success. I much prefer playing in the Championship against Fulham. That's happening tonight, by the way.
Welcome to the Gig Stories podcast.
I love music. So also, now, many of our listeners and our friends on social media will actually know Anna, I think, from being Anna Lockdown LPs. And for those of you who don't know what that is, I'm going to hand over to Anna, because it was something just wonderful during lockdown, and a lot of people saw it, and Chris and I have had chats about it. So for those of us who don't know, tell us about your lockdown LPs, Anna.
Well, I did that thing that a few of us did at the start of the first lockdown, so we're going right back to March 2020 here, aren't we, of kind of thinking, are we all going to be inside for ages? What shall I do with my time? And what's the kind of creative thing I can do that, but brackets, is quite easy, close brackets, because other people were kind of, rebuilding extensions to their homes, learning ancient Greek, building pizza ovens. Do you know what I mean? Sourdough was flowing through bags of flour were in short supply. And I was like, I can't be bothered with all that.
I made elderflower champagne.
Get you.
I know.
Yeah. So I just turned over my shoulder in this room that I speak to you from now, and I just looked at my records, and I've got you probably see them.
Yes, we can see them.
Yeah, not even loads. This was the thing I was worried about, that proper vinyl nerds out there would be like, that's nothing. That's what I play in a day. So basically, my mission to myself was, I love music. you know, like many people, I'm out all the time and I never really sit down with my records and love them enough. So this is the opportunity to sit and play them all. So about 300 LPs in that corner. And then I decided to kind of write about each one as I went along. And the other thing is they're kept out, they're not alphabetic, they are kept chronologically, which throws people into a right old spin.
Ooh, I like that. That would throw me into a spin because my memory's so bad. Because you, Anna, then have to look at that and think, hang on, what year was Jeff Buckley's Grace? And that would catch me out, whereas I would just need to go out there.
I think if my collection were bigger, it would become a nightmare. But the truth is 300 records I can kind of neatly have in sort of, well, what I had was the beginning of time until the 80s. So I have a few, yeah. Those well-known LPs recorded by cavemen and women.
Yes, yes.
I know the first things are some classical records. I don't have many, but so I think the first one I played was probably Mozart. And so you get very quickly jump through kind of hundreds of years in quick succession. Then I got myself into the 60s, fifth bit of 50s, then into the 60s quite quickly, stayed there a while, and then that segment, that square, stops at the 80s, and then there's a whole square, understandably, for the 90s, a whole square for 90s stroke noughties, and then noughties until the present day. So that's kind of how the 4 areas break down. So if I bought loads more records, the whole scheme would be ruined, no doubt.
Do you still buy vinyl?
I do, yeah, but I do try and be careful about what I buy because of the space issue, but just because I sort of have a rule that everything I own on vinyl needs to be really good. Whereas in the other room, I've got loads of CDs and there's all sorts of, you know, things that I bought blind over the years and, you know, more random things. Whereas I could kind of just touch the LPs at any random point, pull something out, and it would be to me, a classic, even if it's not a well-known classic. So that's my...
I was saying that to Alex, that just looking through and reading your blog, yeah, I just want your LP collection. That's what I want. It's absolutely beautiful.
What I want.
Yeah.
That's very kind to say.
No, it's lovely, and it's absolutely me. It's me in a record collection as well. It's exactly what I would if I had a massive amount of money, and you know, because and you know, and just, you know, buying it like a Russian oligarch. Rather than doing all the work, not to get back to the football analogies, but, you know, rather than doing all the work in terms of, you know, buying the records as they come out, or, you know, finding an absolute perler in a charity shop or which is what I'm assuming you did. You bought them when they came out, or you found them in a you know, a brief moment of absolute perfection where it's, you know, when you find an absolute belter in a charity shop.
I love that.
Yeah,
it is heaven.
Yeah,
but you're right, Chris. I bought when at the time when I started buying records, which would have been the mid-90s, some things I bought on LP wisely. I wish I'd bought everything, of course, on vinyl, because they're the valuable ones. Most things I bought on CD, and then later some things like the 60s and stuff, of course, you know, it's cheaper because it was mass produced. And whisper this, I nicked some of them off my dad, so some of that was acquired. But yeah, I have there's an absolutely amazing secondhand record shop in Camberwell in South London, and I'm allowed to name drop them, give them a plug, because they're amazing. Yeah. So Rat Records, they're just and the guy in there, some of the guys in there that I've chatted to over the years, they just know my taste and have very kindly kind of tucked things away for me now and again. And I did have a kind of an oligarch phase with them, where I did spend a lot of money each Saturday. But so things like Pulp, different class on vinyl, it's really quite hard to get the original vinyl. It's expensive, and day one, Philippe, the French guy that works, I just said one day, Anna, I have something for you, and I was like, oh my god, I'll buy it. So do you know what I mean? It takes, you're right, Chris, it does take a little bit of obsession to collect things that you would have not bought on vinyl at the time. But yeah, but charity shops as well. Charity shop finds are indeed the most rewarding you can get, aren't they?
So in terms of nicking records off your dad, what period does that go up to? What was the latest album that you nicked? I don't mean the one that most recently, but the one that was released latest.
Probably, well, not some of it was I stole the actual physical records, some just stole the idea of it. So things like Leonard Cohen, things like Nick Drake. So yeah, 60s into the 70s. And then, 80s and 90s onwards, my dad was just so dismissive of like Top of the Pops, and he used to come in and say, what on earth is this awful cover version? And we were like, well, I'm 11, so I've got no idea that was first recorded in 1965. So, he would teach us, but in a very kind of pop music's gone to the dogs kind of way.
Rightly so, really. Rightly so.
I don't know. I think he appreciated that by the 90s there was a proper scene going on, and he now latterly kind of acknowledges that your Jarvis Cockers and your Damon Albarns are kind of national treasures now, just about. But I don't think he would have bought them ever. He left that to us.
Okay, we are going to take you back in time. Music. When did you first become aware of music? What was playing in the house? When did you fall in love with music?
Oh, we're going right back to when I was about 4. Both my parents love music. My dad owns loads of vinyl and had the biggest speakers in Leeds. I don't know how our neighbours.
Really?
Yeah, seriously, massive. The kind of ones that need their own sort of stand, and those spikes that go into the floor. So proper beasts of speakers. And so my dad would play Leonard Cohen really loud. He'd play weirdly, but great, because we loved it as kids, was the Robin Hood soundtrack, but by Clannad.
Oh yeah, the Hooded Man.
Robin.
Yes.
Hooded Man.
Well, love it. I'm so happy you know it.
Oh, it's brilliant.
We loved it.
Yeah.
And the whole album's amazing. And my dad would put it on ridiculously loud. My mum must have, I don't know quite how this happened, but my mum was, I think, on board with the decibel outrage, and we would just sort of sit beneath the speakers and let the amazing sound past me and my sisters, Kirsten and Claire. Kirsten would have been maybe a baby, so God knows what her eardrums were doing, and Claire was 4.5, 5 years older than me, bleeding.
I can't believe that an album can be so nostalgic, because I'm now thinking of, and I think I'm right, Jason Praed or Michael Praed.
Michael Praed,
Michael Praed,
Jason Connery,
and then it was Jason Connery. Sunday.
Let's get my dad on.
Saturday evenings.
Yeah, I think it was Saturdays, but it was it
was brilliant, wasn't it? Herne the Hunter. Yeah.
So when your mum took over the record player, what would she be playing?
She would put on Simon and Garfunkel, and we loved all that kind of Feeling Groovy and all those classics. And she also loves Leonard Cohen. She also likes French. She's cool, my mum. She likes French singer, chanteurs like Françoise Hardy.
Wow.
Who else? Trying to think of some of the she brought a different. There was kind of the light and shade. She brought kind of a more. Oh, does anybody know George Mustaki? That was one of her favourites. So kind of quite a European, interesting. I think my mum would have been loads more into music if it weren't for the fact my dad was so into music. I think sometimes, and it probably happens to us, doesn't it, in our households, that because we love music, we tend to dominate what's on the record player. But yeah, no, she would definitely play Simon and Garfunkel to us, because it's kind of like kid friendly as well, like nice, happy, sunny harmonies and things.
No Demis Roussos?
No, I think that's a little bit sort of uncool for my mum, or Abigail's Party.
What? How dare you?
Didn't know, was it? What's this anyway? I
mean, no, Dr. Hook.
Dr. Hook. My dad might have been more Dr. Hook. Actually, to be fair, my mum would have just played the Beatles as well. Like she loved the Beatles. My dad's from Liverpool, but is a bit sort of like, oh, they're a boy band.
Did your folks go to gigs?
Do you know, I always have this chat with my dad about what a mosh pit is, right? He is really adamant that they didn't exist in the olden days or in his youth. And I'm like, depends what you define as a mosh pit. Clearly, it's an American term, and it comes from punk and people really throwing themselves forward to the front of the stage in small venues. But in my lifetime, mosh pits just generally refers to the bit at the front where people are nearest to the stage. So my dad always goes off on one about how gigs that they went to in the 60s, and they were at Newcastle University together, you basically stood still or you sat on a nice wooden chair to watch the artist. So I find it amazing really to think of, and my dad went to gigs in Liverpool when the Beatles were, breaking through, and the Cavern Club was, I can't quite believe his story that they never actually got crushed into a venue, like, and had that thrill of being kind of part of the crowd and covered in everybody else's sweat as is part of gig life.
No, it wasn't the thing. I've had this with my parents. It sounds like my parents are slightly older than yours, but my mum got to see the Beatles and Tom Jones and what was Stevie Wonder? What did he used to be called? Little Stevie, is that right? I think it was Little Stevie when he was a boy, and then he changed, didn't he? All those, and it would the thing to do was dance, actually. And she said as rock and roll came in, you would dance. So she said sometimes it'd be really quite busy and packed, but you'd actually dance all sort of facing the same way.
With each other, which is nice.
Yeah. And on some of the rock and roll gigs, it would be, because my mum was a bit of a jiver, they would actually do that, obviously in limited space, but not necessarily all stood, facing the artist. It was very different. And if you see some of the footage, especially some of those Beatles shows, you can see that they're stood up, but they are in their chairs. So they're only squashed in their chairs in the theatre, because the four of them are cutting up next to each other at the front, screaming. So there is a...
But that thing you say about facing the stage versus facing each other, the KLF book, don't know if either of you have read it yet, but my partner was reading it. I can't wait to read it, but my partner was reading out a bit of it, and it's about, one part of it is talking about this very thing, that how rave culture and dance music culture actually meant that people danced with each other again and turned to each other, and that yes, there was an artist on the stage on some decks or playing some tunes or performing, but fundamentally the joy of it was to face each other, and the other people were the show rather than the person on the stage being the kind of focal point, which I actually really like that thought.
It was really the early 90s that started to change, and it really came with the superstar DJs that obviously the Chemical Brothers sing about. And it was with your Fatboy Slims and that, when all of a sudden you then started dancing at the DJ almost.
Yes.
And there was an absolute switch of focus, and you could still dance with each other. So I remember going to Cream in Liverpool in the 90s. I was in university there and seeing some of these, I've seen them all, Carl Cox over the years, all of them. And there was a definite change in the 90s when they did become rock and roll stars in themselves, DJs, and our habits live changed. And so you would start dancing. I mean, you go and see Fatboy Slim now, he's touring arenas, isn't he? And you're supposed to look at him because he's got lovely big screens, and and you are all dancing, you're looking at each other maybe and smiling. But even by the time the Chemical Brothers came round and were big, I was dancing at them at the stage, because I think visuals, as soon as planned stage visuals came along, it distracted you away from the crowd. So is it good? Is it bad? I don't know. It's just
looping it back to my parents and the gigs they went to back in the day. One gig I always love hearing about from my mom is that she saw the John Barry Quartet.
No way!
But guess where? She saw them in an ice rink where she and her friends would skate around the band. How cool is that? So in terms of kind of gig formats that have been tried out in history and we want back, how about that? And it was in Leeds in the when it must have been the mid 60s or early 60s even.
Oh, that sounds amazing.
Oh my gosh, my brain is racing, Chris. My brain is racing.
It's just a nice thought, isn't it, to do two fun things at once? Why not? Like, have a sort of multitasking fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Make the fun work twice as hard.
me ask you then, Anna, what was your first gig?
This is where all the cool references take a nosedive, I'm afraid. So
No, nothing
despite,
about that. It's all good. It's all good.
Despite the wise counsel of my parents and their good taste, my first actual gig that I chose to go to, that I, asked to get tickets for.
This is what we want.
Yeah, here we go. Was Jason Donovan at the Harrogate International Centre. So
Wow.
It's not even a cool venue. It's like a conference centre where they do, kind of, I don't know. Yeah, but like, I don't know, knitting conventions and stuff. Nothing wrong with knitting, but like, it's not normally a place of pop music, or maybe now, or maybe has been since. But so yeah, I was about, I'm trying to work out, I was thinking it must have been 91 or 92. I was 12-ish, and my sister came with me, and my little sister, who was, I think, 7 or 8. And it was, to be fair, Jason put on a cracking show.
Well, I think he probably felt like he needed. I think he probably felt like he needed to, because his star was on the wane at that point, wasn't it?
It's true.
I mean, he was. It was a downward trajectory at that point.
Kylie had already become Kylie on her own, hadn't she?
And Jason had become Jason Donovan.
Yeah.
And if I'm sure people listening, and you have watched some of the Top of the Pops reruns on BBC4 lately.
Oh yes.
So they're in, I think, at the end of 1991. Bryan Adams is still number 1 right now.
For the 10th year.
But when you see the Jason Donovan tracks pop up, even I was clearly a fan in that era, I was like, ooh, don't really remember this one. Because it was Joseph? That kind of it was actually, yeah, it was the Any Dream Will Do, but just before that, kind of maybe spring of 91 summer, that feeling when you can tell that Pete Waterman is really rinsing like the 4th and 5th singles out of the album. That's where we've been in 1991. And the tapes were all neon. Do you remember this? The Stock Aitken and Waterman tapes were
don't.
Bright pink, bright orange, bright lime green.
That's brilliant.
Which is kind of ravey, really, but it was very much
but for kids, it looked like you could lick them. They were like
were you licking your cassettes?
Christopher Payne, ladies and gentlemen, Christopher Payne.
Cassette licker. No, they looked like they looked like lollipops. They looked like you could lick them.
Maybe if you lick the 2 holes at the same time, you could record something on the B-side.
Yeah.
That?
Yeah.
Do you still have, by any chance, the ticket stub for that concert?
You asked me this, and I was looking I do have loads of tickets in a shoebox, but they sort of start when I started going to gigs as a mid-teen. So if those ticket stubs exist, they're in a shoebox in my parents' loft with a load of old smash hits. Okay,
let's get on to the important thing.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, she's got a shoebox full of ticket stubs. This is what we're here for.
If my mum threw them away, then, it's possible. But I do think that in our loft at home in North Yorkshire, there are some like dark recesses that she hasn't managed to reach, where shoeboxes of tat collected by my sisters and I in the 80s may still be preserved in a kind of cocoon-like state. And I'm hoping to find them one day.
You might want to check that, Anna, because I think your mum's burnt them.
Yeah.
So, Anna, we have Jason, which is marvelous. Jason Donovan. What would you class as? What was then your first cool concert that you felt like you'd found your taste in music? And that's not denying, because Chris and I are both dead against guilty pleasure. There is no guilty pleasure.
I agree. I love pop music, and it's all good. So Jason, when I was about 12 when I saw that gig, so we're sort of fast forwarding probably 4 years to the point where I'm actually able to have my own money to buy tickets and go to a gig on my own, because with Jason, my parents were waiting outside and all that. So it would have been probably Blur at Sheffield Arena in 95.
Oh, get off. That can't be that.
Well, it probably is.
Don't come in here throwing around, yes, my first gig happened to be Arena Blur. That is far too cool.
Saying I'd seen them in some cool little back of a pub would actually be cool. But the point is, I didn't really see them until they were massive. So, because I was 16 and off we went on a coach trip over to Sheffield. And would it have been the Great Escape tour? Yeah, by this point.
I was just going to say, was that did you say 96?
I think 95 the first time I saw them live.
Yeah, it was Great Escape. because I moved into my first ever flat, and that cassette was the soundtrack to us moving in.
Oh, of course, it's What's the Story, Morning Glory, isn't it?
Yeah, it was around
the
about
battle. Yeah,
that tour. Wasn't that the tour where they had? Can you remember the gig?
burgers.
Burgers.
Giant
That's what I was
burgers.
just going to say. Yeah, they had giant burgers on the top.
We did.
Because I saw that gig in Cardiff. That tour. Wow, what you lucky thing. That is a brilliant first gig. Tell me what you remember about it and how you felt, and the whole experience.
It was the excitement of having to sort of go on a coach trip as well. So we went across Yorkshire and arrived and got in there and bought the T-shirt, did all those things. And it's the T-shirt that I later wore to Oasis at Nebworth, by the way. I wore a Blur T-shirt to Nebworth.
Get in.
Nice one.
Chris and I are like that. We're both Oasis and Blur.
I think, it was my way of sort of, the lady doth protest too much by going to Nebworth, but wearing a Blur T-shirt. But anyway, we can come back to that. Because I was very much trying to be like on the Blur side of the divide, but I also didn't want to miss out on a massive moment in culture, and I'm pretty sure that was the right decision. But Blur at Sheffield Arena, I just remember the sound of, how you hear about Beatlemania and what it sounds like to hear a wall of screaming. So like we got in, and I was kind of to the left of the stage, higher up, looking down on the mosh pit. Sorry, Dad. And there, and it was just seeing. I've probably not been in an audience that big before, and the sound of screaming that kind of did drown out half of the first song, which I think was Stereotypes. I think they came on Stereotypes.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, I loved it. I absolutely loved it. You know what I found recently in terms of little relics of fandom that may or may not be in the loft. I found a review that I'd written for myself. So I got back, had the program T-shirt, and I typed up on my parents' word processor a review that I said to my mum, why did I write that? Was it for the school magazine, or? I said, no, just for yourself. So I wrote myself a review, and I have it, and it's quite cute. It's not bad actually. It's not. It's it's the work of a 16-year-old.
Do you still have it? Did you say?
Yeah, no, absolutely got it. Yeah.
Would you mind sharing it with the listeners? Would you send a picture to us so that people could read it?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I think it's just over there. Shall I see if I've got it?
Oh, we'd love to hear it.
So let me just see if I've still got it in this room. Hold on.
Oh, I think she's got it.
Okay.
I think you've got it.
So what I have here are my two, which I definitely rescued from the loft, is the Blur program.
Wow.
And then the Nebworth, that's Nebworth.
Oh, you bought the Nebworth one.
So I've got those two together. So in here, unless it's moved, but I don't think it has. Yeah, it's so. I mean, look, there's some real evidence of being a massive nerd here.
Right now, you are the most Gig Stories guest ever. You are. You along with Sophie Williams, who is a friend of mine, and she's 21 now, I think, and she's the new music editor at the NME.
Lucky person, that's the dream gig.
Oh yeah, her story, and for listeners, if you've not heard that, get back and listen, because she's absolutely fabulous. You two should be leading Chris and I in the Gig Stories podcast, because you are absolutely up there as geeks with us. So we welcome you.
Well, I have my spreadsheet. Bear that in mind.
Oh yeah, he has a spreadsheet, Anna.
I've got a spreadsheet.
Gigs you've been to.
Yeah, I went through all of my tickets. Excel, yeah, all of my tickets, and so I've got the names of the band or artist, the date, the city, the venue. But now I can look up things by venue and see who I saw there, and and it was, and that was a lockdown thing. So yeah, alongside the elderflower champagne and the banana bread, there was a spreadsheet for all my gigs.
Listen to how pleased he is that I don't even have to go by the artist. I can go, but I can search gigs by the venue.
Yeah, many of you listening will have to go by the artist, not me. I can go by venue. I can even go by month.
While you sip elderflower champagne.
Yes, with my pinky out, and yeah, I can go by month.
I wish I could get the relevant data to do such a thing, but I just can't. I just don't think I could.
You've got it in a shoebox.
Look at this, right? These are the artifacts, which I'm happy to send you pictures of. But this is how nerdy I was, but also how much this gig meant to me. So the coach, invoice thing. The coach, like how much it cost us, 51 quid, all in for the trip plus 2 tickets.
That's so expensive.
Oh, it is a price, isn't it? But I think it was the travel as well.
Yeah.
All the little things that, you know, the merch stall items, t-shirts and things on a sort of glossy bit of paper.
I am
the
loving
Guardian,
this.
The Guardians, like my mum and dad would have read the paper and I would have nicked this. So it's Damon. So it's the review of the gig from Monday, the 27th of November, 1995.
He is lush. He is. And
he's a beautiful boy, Damon.
Chris there, that other fellow on this Zoom, he's photographed Damon.
Have you? Is he easy to work with or is he a diva?
No, Chris got thrown out because he kept licking his face.
No, I tell you, I can't remember if I've mentioned. I think I have mentioned this, but it was at Six Music Festival when it was in Manchester. Well, Salford. It was Victoria Warehouse, and I got and he was there and he was performing. But then in the morning, the Saturday morning, he was being interviewed by Stuart McConey and Marianne Hobbs, and the 3 photographers got brought in, and I was the third of the 3. The other 2 were enemy photographers, and the second of the first 2 accidentally used a flash and pretty much blinded him, and he stood up and started to walk away, and I had to grab his arm and say, "No, come back." And his so he sat down. His person said, "You've got two clicks." I think it was 2 clicks or 3. I can't remember. I took 5. I did 5 clicks, but 3 of them were him looking in a completely different direction.
He wouldn't look at Chris.
He wouldn't look at me. But I did get 1. I think he would have been lovely had he not just had a flash in the face.
Right, listener, we are seeing the typed up review. We will get pictures and put it on the website because this is Gig Stories gold.
It's not my finest writing, but everybody has to be kind because I was 16. Okay?
You were 16. I couldn't write like that now. Don't worry.
You haven't seen it yet.
I love it.
But yes, there we are.
Very quickly, and it would be rude of us not to pick up on this because both Chris and I were in relevant places. Chris was in the Scottish Nebworth, so you went to Loch Lomond, didn't you?
Yeah.
Was it after Nebworth? Was it the week after?
It was the week before, I think. Yeah,
week before. So you got them first.
Yeah.
Which day were you on, Anna? Were you the Yeah.
There it is. There's the ticket. Yeah, and what a bargain actually. £22.50.
Yeah,
that ticket.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's Saturday, and I, you know, again, like I said, I was kind of trying to rock that I'm actually a Blur fan thing, trying to be cool, and it didn't really work because everybody else was screaming for Oasis, but I loved it. It was so exciting, and
apart from Ocean Colour Scene, of course.
Well, I was about to say I actually learned a lot about other bands that day because I kind of got into the Manics that day because Nicky Wire, I don't know if you remember, Alex, but he was wearing a dress, as he often did and often still does. I think it was a green dress, and I can remember just being transfixed by this guy in the green dress with the big eyeliner and the hair, and so while I'm glad I went, and Oasis, you know, they played everything at double speed. Do you remember that? Like racing through Wonderwall, and
that is a thing from Nebworth, and we were all like, "What? This is so fast." Everything was so fast.
And I remember getting home from Nebworth, so I got a coach, so back up to Knaresborough, my hometown, from Hertfordshire through the night. Got home.
What time did you get home?
It must have been 6 or 7 the next morning.
Yeah, me and my girlfriend at the time, we pulled up to Cardiff Castle where they were dropping us off at 7:45 in the morning.
Yeah, yeah. And I remember I might have gone to bed first, but I remember being so still buzzing from the whole experience that I don't know why. I think I probably had already stolen copies of my dad's record collector and had them under my bed. So, and you know, these in the days when record collector had like Buddy Holly on the cover and stuff.
Yeah.
They were for old, I mean, no disrespect to my dad, but they were for a very old male audience, let's face it.
Yeah,
those days. Record collector now, I can see is now who's the old man? Now who's the
That's the latest one, isn't it?
So I'm holding up a copy of Record Collector with the Manics on the cover.
The Manics. And that's one of my favourite photo shoots, as well.
Very cool. It's the one where they've got like culture sluts written across their chest in lipstick. But so
and I will acknowledge that I just said that is one of my favorite Mannix photo shoots. I do have favorite Mannix photo shoots.
Well,
And I'm not.
they're so photogenic, aren't they? But yeah, so I got home. I got out rather than going to sleep after a mad kind of experience and then all night on a coach. I got my dad's record collectors out and started going through them for like, how can I find out more about what to buy of the Mannix, or who can I, there's little adverts at the back, kind of send off for like the CDs and all this. I mean, I did say earlier I was massively nerdy at the time.
I am properly giddy inside because I feel like I did back then. It was such what a night. And then if you remember, the Sunday night was on Radio 1. So I was then sat with cassette ready to record it.
Yeah.
And listen to it and relive.
Did you lick the cassette though?
No, Chris was. So Anna, we're going to take you into our ironically named quickfire round.
Okay.
Favorite band to see live? Who's your favorite act artist?
Oh, you do ask hard questions. I'm going to go for Deer Hunter.
Oh my gosh, wow. When was the first time you saw Deer Hunter?
The Halcyon Digest tour must have been, so I can't quite think, but 2000 and what year was that? They're a band that I really associate with a sort of a second wave of gig going in my life. So away from the 90s now and into the 2000s.
Yeah.
Finding them as part of friendships I had in London when I got to London in my first job here, and my very good gig buddy Julian, who got me into Deer Hunter. So Halcyon Digest.
2007?
Sounds about right. And I saw them at All Tomorrow's parties where they played every album.
Oh, wow.
Like 3 nights in a row.
Yes. Amazing. Yes, okay. I remember that happening. I wasn't there.
Yeah. Oh, hang on.
I remember that happening.
2010 actually, Halcyon Digest. So it's not that long ago, is it? 11 years ago.
No.
Yeah, but I saw them from that point onwards, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 times in different forms. Yeah.
And what was it that grabbed you?
The singer Bradford Cox just has that proper amazing frontman energy and a kind of craziness that things might go off a bit. A bit like the Mannix in their heyday.
Yeah.
But a feeling that he was very much in the moment with you as the performer, and definitely those All Tomorrow's parties ones. I actually managed to high five him at the end of the gig, and he's got these long bony fingers. He's got Marfan syndrome, which is this syndrome that makes him very sort of bony and skinny and kind of amazing, but it's also a serious syndrome that makes him have, he struggles with his health and stuff. So you kind of think there's a fragility to him there as well. But he stuck out this bony hand and I high-fived it. And Brilliant. He looked me in the eye, and he was wearing some sort of mad like Russian fur hat. But inside, the whole thing was nuts, but really, really exciting. And I just think his voice, his songwriting, all the musicians he gets on stage. He got on stage Verity from Electrolane, who is a friend of mine. Through my, I'm friends with Debbie, who was the the guitarist in Electrolane back in the day. So Verity played the saxophone with Deer Hunter, and we were like, oh my god, that's kind of our mate playing with them. And so anyway,
it was so cool.
So it was so exciting. But that wasn't very quick fire, was it?
No, it's all right, but you'll get used to this. Best ever gig, best ever live gig.
Oh. Kate Bush. Hammersmith Apollo.
Oh, you were one of them.
I'm one of them, but I'm one of the ones that paid a ridiculous amount of money that I should have bought a car with to see Kate Bush instead. I couldn't get tickets in the first sort of flush of them coming online. It was a nightmare, but it was worth it.
Was it an amazing night?
It was. It was other world. I'm sorry, because I think if you didn't go, it just makes you feel more annoyed to hear about it. But
no, not at all.
It was otherworldly. I was about 6 rows, so I bought these super duper idiotic expensive tickets. My friend and my partner we were all separate, so we were all having this experience, but in different, because we could only buy old tickets that were left on their own. Yeah. So I was on my own with this. I always describe it as like I was in a row of men. For some reason, everyone around me was like a guy in his maybe 35 upwards. So
really?
And all of them weeping. So basically very emotional middle-aged men in tears. And we just kept turning to each other.
I totally understand.
Just looking at each other about kind of the next thing, she was singing obviously all the stuff from Hounds of Love and the Ninth Wave, and then it was honestly like a mad dream, like a hallucination, the whole thing. And the fact she didn't let people take photos is actually amazing, because you can't ruin it by looking at the photos. It's all got to be in your memory.
When was the last time you cried at a gig?
Oh,
because I'm going to be straight up here. I mean, it's happening to me all the time now. It's hilarious. Just because you said middle-aged man, of which I absolutely am.
I think it was probably seeing Saint Etienne play Nothing Can Stop Us, which, but recently, as in last 5 years, because when they played in 2000, they played Leeds Met, which is now Leeds Beckett, and I interviewed them for a Leeds student newspaper, and very sweetly, they must have read the review of the album that I'd done. So anyway, during the gig, all of a sudden, there I am, kind of, I don't know, about 5-6 rows back. Sarah Cracknell suddenly kind of puts the spotlight on me and says, "This one's for Anna," and sparks up Nothing Can Stop Us. And I know, I actually had an out-of-body experience that she dedicated it to me, right? But that's in 2000. And about 20 years on or whatever, the last time I saw them, probably 2018 or something, when they played it again, I had a kind of little bit of my whole life since then moment, thinking about how they dedicated that to me once upon a time when I was, 18, 19. And here I am.
Do you know what, Anna? Sorry, I thought you were going to tell us that she did it again. And I was
didn't do it again.
I was going to end the podcast here and go, well, it was lovely talking to you. Now, sod off.
No, Sarah Cracknell did not remember that moment probably as much as I did. But yes, I think I might have a little bit of a tear in my eye at the memory of that.
I can imagine that's kind of like a nice triggering. Do you know what I mean? That kind of, oh, yeah.
With a little bit of a, oh my God, how have I let like 19 years go by? What have I done in it?
So just triggering then.
But positive overall, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Chris, can I assume that you know the song, Chris? Nothing can stop us now.
Yeah.
Do. And obviously, as I said earlier, I can't hear a song title and I've just sung it through. Would I be right, Chris, in saying that it is a flute?
Yeah.
Is it a recorder? What is it?
It's a Dusty Springfield sample, actually.
But it's a flute.
Isn't it?
Yeah. I think it's two flutes. They harmonize with each other.
Because surely that must be one of the greatest performances by a flute in a record.
But stolen from Dusty, I think.
Yeah.
Let's put that on the webpage, because it is, when I first learned that, because obviously they're a band who sample everybody, and I can remember being a little bit like, what do you mean? It wasn't them that thought of the flutes, it was Nick's. But then, of course, that's the beauty of music, is that sampling brings amazing things into a new era.
The other best flautist is display music, or my favorite is Sure Shot by the Beastie Boys, and I'm almost sure that that's not them either. So I love a flute, and I love a Bell and Sebastian recorder solo.
Yes,
it's great, isn't it?
Great. It's all slightly because you could do it and you could join the band for one night, isn't it? I can do that.
I still couldn't. I wish I could join you.
Did I, Alex? Have I told you that I once recorded with Bell and Sebastian?
Coming out now.
Ching. Yeah. This, this is a podcast.
How long have we known each other now?
I know, long enough. Oh, it wasn't anything big. I was playing saxophone for a guy.
Oh no, it wasn't anything big.
No.
I recorded with Bell and Sebastian.
They came
Nothing
in
big.
They came in to do hand claps for this guy. I'd done a sax part
so
for him in Glasgow. Well. I know. That was it. And you know how you were talking about a clique with Bell and Sebastian? That was exactly the feel that. So that this singer-songwriter, he got me in to do one song playing saxophone, and then they all descended, came down, and everyone just sat in the corners of the recording studio, just kind of within this clique. There were little cliques, so cliques within cliques.
A sub-clique.
Yeah.
I have one Bell and Sebastian story. It's a bit random, but my friend in Glasgow, her daughter, who is now like 21, but her daughter was given Stuart Murdoch's pogo stick. There you go. When she was about 12.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing that's only because he upgraded and got a better
Almost
pogo
certainly.
stick.
Almost certainly.
He didn't outgrow it. He got a better one and passed it on.
Look at me and me pogo stick.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
so Bell and Sebastian.
It is.
Love it. I love it. Right. This is still the quick fire round, all right? I'm as guilty as everyone. Right. What was the worst gig you've ever been?
It depends whether you mean worse by somebody you love being disappointing or just an awful band.
No, this is your interpretation. Exactly. This is what we love. Some people don't even say that. And so they just tell us. But we like it when you've got two answers.
So not wanting to. Oh, God, it's so hard.
Yes. Not wanting to. Yes, wanting to, please.
No, because this is a bit sad. Do you remember when Blur played the end of the Olympics gig in Hyde Park in London?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Obviously a good gig and a jubilant moment for the nation. But I think due to some crazy local rules about sound levels, they didn't play loud enough. Does this ring any bells?
Yes, that's right.
But those of you who know Modern Life is Rubbish, and the listeners who might know, is it Turn It Up, that song, Turn It Up. It's like kind of the least Blur song on the album. It's quite sort of basic. But the fans about 2/3 back, so we're talking about, I don't know, few thousand, tens of thousands of people back who could not hear, just started to sing, turn it up, turn it up, turn it up, because we could not hear. And I just remember feeling, that Olympics was so wonderful and uplifting for everybody who managed to even watch it on telly. But I managed to, see a bit of it, just the marathon in London, and got to go to Wimbledon, the tennis and everything. Amazing time. And everything felt good, didn't it? So then for it to end with like my favourite band, or one of my favourite bands, playing in Hyde Park, it should have been awesome. But because I couldn't hear them, it actually was weirdly quite a sad gig.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not expecting much and it's a bad gig, it's actually not as disappointing. But if you're expecting something, especially in 2012 as well.
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, look, to be fair, other people probably had an amazing night that had bothered to get there early and were right down in the front rows. It's just where I was, I couldn't hear it. We actually ended up just wandering off and like having a beer in a sort of tent somewhere. And I was like, I cannot believe I'm walking away from a Blur gig, but I can't hear it anyway.
What's your favourite venue?
Ooh, another good question. You mentioned the Manchester Ritz earlier. I love that place.
Yes.
What was the first gig there? Was that the first gig you saw there?
I think I saw Air on the Moon Safari tour there.
Oh my gosh, one of my favourite albums.
Maybe 98. Yeah. So because there were these mysterious characters, weren't they? The Air duo. You kind of almost felt like, will they actually turn up? And so it was magical in there. Very twinkly little venue, and again, just that feeling of being from the other side of the Pennines, going over to Manchester, going to Affleck's Palace beforehand, buying loads of mad old tat, and then going to see Air at a wonderful little venue with a great view was really, really fun.
I'm going to whiz through this. Okay. We've got Doble Fest, or Annabury, which is your own music, cultural arts festival. Okay, so you're going to have a whole amount of seconds to think about this. Okay, you can pick 2 spoken word events. So in the small tent, you are going to choose 2 people who are going to be interviewed, and they can be anyone. So who are your 2 people that you want to see interviewed?
Music figures. Or anyone.
We'll stick with a music theme, and then you've got your introducing slot, which is maybe an unknown or a new band. Then you've got your warm up, and then you've got your headline act.
Oh, this is so
you've got 2 spoken word interviews, and then you've got a newbie warming you up, and then a headliner.
A newbie and a headliner.
Right, listener, I've got to tell you, all the way through this chat, Anna has been writing notes. She's taking this very seriously, and this is what Chris and I like. So all future guests, if you're not like Anna Doble, you will be cut off.
It's more the fear of forgetting something. So when I have a thought, I quickly make a note, such as the John Barry gig. Right. So
Okay, we're in the tent. We're in the small
we're in the
tent,
tent.
getting ready to go to the main stage.
No, hang on. We're in the ice rink. We're in the ice rink.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that? Skating round as John Robb interviews Tim Burgess.
Can I bring people back from the dead?
You can.
Anyone you like.
Okay.
Anyone you like.
Right. Okay. So
First on the stage, opening the interview stage at Doble Fest is
Dusty Springfield.
being interviewed by
Me.
Nice.
Yeah.
Perfect.
She comes on to St. Etienne.
Yeah, she comes onto her own flute. She was famously into, the reason I want to talk to her, as well as obviously I'd quite like her to sing, but is because what a character. She famously loved a food fight. If you've ever read the Lucy O'Brien biography,
No, I
she
haven't.
used to start food fights in these kind of LA dinner parties. She was really funny, basically, and a real kind of mischief maker. So I feel like that would make a good chat.
What a woman.
There aren't enough food fights. There aren't enough food, certainly at our age.
Yeah, I know. So the applause, that was wonderful. Well done, Anna, for interviewing Dusty Springfield. And now on the stage, please welcome.
Oh, God, I'm not prepared here, am I? Let's bring back Nick Drake.
Oh, interesting. Are you going to interview Nick as well?
No, we need a more sensitive interviewer than me.
Pete Perfides.
Speaking of Pete.
Terry Christian.
But I'd like to ask Nick Drake just a few, I'd like someone to ask him about how he felt about his music, because it's such a shame that he was, a guy who was so amazing in his songwriting, but couldn't speak, could he? So I don't know why I'm forcing him to speak, actually, it's a bit harsh. But I'm sure now Nick Drake was still alive. How old would he be? 70s? 60s?
I knew you were too good to be true, Anna Doble. You're actually a mean, vicious, cruel woman. Sorry, listeners. I'm sorry you've had to be put through that. Everyone's left the tent. She's forcing Nick. Have you seen him there? She's forcing Nick Drake to talk.
He used to play his gigs, some of them, or record facing the wall because he was too shy. So let's have him staring into the corner.
Oh, bless him.
While we ask him, the audience can ask him questions.
Oh, that's a nice.
Is that a bit weird?
Nice touch. Yes, but we like that.
Okay, so we've left the tent. Everyone's emptying out because they're going to go and see the introducing slot. I suppose that's a BBC thing, isn't it, really? Here is a band we'd like to introduce you to, and they are...
The Orioles from Halifax.
Oh, yes. Yeah, claps all around from Chris and I. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Love them.
Brilliant.
My favourite little indie band of the last few years, although they don't need introducing probably anymore, but I would still have them being introduced because they're great. And I think the pandemic has got in the way of a lot of these great little bands, kicking on with their careers. So let's give them that slot.
Oh, that's amazing. And anyone listening who doesn't know them, go and search them out, because they're one of my favorites too the past few years. They're just fantastic. They were brilliant. Everyone loved that. And now we're warming up, ready for the headliner, but not the headliner. A great act in their own right. It is, please welcome to the stage at Doble Fest, Anna Brie.
Let's give it to Pulp.
Oh, that is a massive shout.
So a little bit beyond warm-up, but I'd love to see them in their absolute pomp. So sort of the Glastonbury 94, 95 sort of.
Oh, so did you not see them back then?
You say that because you did, didn't you?
Yes, of course. Yes, of course.
I didn't see them until probably, I know I saw Finsbury Park late 90s. But my sister Claire, my big sister, was the biggest Pulp fan, still is. And she got to see them at the Heineken Festival that year that they broke through. And then we watched them on the telly at Glastonbury. Because do you remember they only played Glastonbury because the Stone Roses pulled out? They only headlined. So
John Squire broke his arm or something, didn't he? Fall off a bike.
That's right. Yeah. So let's have Jarvis doing the kind of, as the sun sets kind of moment, golden light fading the stage.
What a gig. People think, surely it's time to go home.
How do you follow that?
Exactly. How do you follow that? And this is how you follow it with
Kraftwerk.
Yes.
The fully 3D laser show Kraftwerk with and it's the mix, the one that's a bit more like of all the remix albums on Earth, it's the one with the blue cover with the kind of obviously they've all got robots on them, but you know what I mean. And it's kind of amped up and a bit ravier, and we could have a few guests. We could have, you know, Orbital joining them on stage, or Caribou for that matter. You know, we'll have a few other little collabos on that set. But yeah, the original lineup of Kraftwerk, pumping it out.
Can I just remind you that we're actually in an ice rink? So if you had speed skaters going round, like, you know how they played Manchester International Festival with the cyclists, and so you could have speed.
Yes.
So you've got speed skaters going round. Oh yes.
Ooh.
That would be amazing.
When I saw Kraftwerk at the Tate Modern when they played that time.
Oh,
and
yes.
It was so good. It was in a turbine hall, and I was again flipping lucky to get in. And I do have quite a showbiz tale to tell about how I got in, which I could tell you, but it's a bit humble brag. But I got in, and the sort of 3D show and the way they did it, because it's in that contained concrete sort of oblong that is the turbine hall, it was so intense. Like you felt like they had like satellites flying above, and they had sort of musical notes floating around your head, properly trippy, intense and amazing. I'm so lucky I was there.
I mentioned Pete Perfides about 2 minutes ago, and I'm mentioning him again. This is bonkers, because I'm almost positive that it was his review that I read of that gig, and just thinking, man, because they did a few of them, didn't they? In the turbine.
They did every album, didn't they? I think I saw Trans Europe Express, but yeah, I got in. I went with Jon Snow from Channel 4 News.
What?
Yeah, and everybody thought he was everybody thought it was my dad. So I used to work at Channel 4 News. I used to do stuff on their website. So when Jon Snow learned of my sadness at not getting tickets, because he's a patron of the Tate, he very, very kindly said, "I'll get you in, darling," and managed to blag me and a friend of mine from that team where we worked at the time into that gig. So
oh my gosh.
So I've got these photos of me and John and my friend in X-ray, you know, the kind of cardboard 3D specs. It's completely surreal.
Oh, so John came as well?
Yeah, John came. He was well up for it.
Oh, I have never loved him more.
I know.
I want to salute.
I
feel like I want to sing something. I don't know why, but Land of Hope and Glory or something. I don't know. I need to like wave a Jon Snow flag. Mr. Snow, he's a very regular listener to this podcast.
I'm sure he is.
Thank you for taking our Anna to that gig. That is brilliant.
So that's the show I need for my festival. It needs to be that version of Kraftwerk with all the kind of amazing visuals and things.
That's what I like. And what I was going to say is, when I rudely interrupted you, is that I think that's the direction that I think you'd have to go after someone like Pulp. Because I probably would have said Prodigy or Chemical Brothers, something that's so different, so that you're not like, you couldn't whack on Blur or anything like that.
No,
something just different, and that you're just going to dance the night away, knowing Pulp were bloody amazing, and we just saw that Kraftwerk gig.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, what a festival! And listeners, tickets for that festival will be going on sale. That'll be our Fire Fest or whatever that's called.
With Nick Drake weeping in the corner.
Yes.
Facing the wall.
Well, we need to take you to the last two questions, because our time is more than up. We've taken far too much of your time, and I have thoroughly enjoyed this chat. And so before Chris asks you the final question, I'm just going to ask for not just Chris and I, but for our listeners, we like to ask for a live recommendation of a band first. So who may we have not seen that you think you've got to go and see this band live? They are fantastic.
Gosh, you really are putting me on the spot tonight.
You and your ruddy questions in your podcast.
I've already used up my Deer Hunter. Who else is in that vein? Just trying to. I honestly might have to come back to that one. What's the next one? There's too many good options. I want to kind of give a smaller band an opportunity here.
You want to nail it?
So let me have a ponder. I've got one.
Oh wait,
I've got one. She's amazing. It's come to me. Julia Holter, brilliant live. Beautiful voice, amazing, intense live shows, very intimate, gorgeous. I love her, really good. she's not exactly up and coming. She's absolutely made it, but it's probably not an artist that everybody knows about in the UK.
Brilliant. That is great.
Okay.
You. No, I'm looking forward to this this playlist. Every episode has the playlist that we mentioned before. But yeah, I actually prefer it when it's not a musician, because you've got you almost go through the ages, and so this one is going to be a belter. Really looking
it's going to
forward
be a great playlist. This.
Yeah. The last question. So it's a favorite either live track or a live album, or maybe it's a video, a YouTube, a live performance that's on YouTube. What would be your go-to live thing?
This is why I was making notes earlier. So I'm scared I'd forget. So I've got, I know it's terrible to answer with, can I have two?
No, go for it.
So
he's feeling kind.
Just for sheer amazing live performance that blew everyone's socks off and blew my socks off again recently. This is a bit unexpected, I imagine, but Maria McKee on Top of the Pops doing
Show Me Heaven.
Show Me Heaven. The classic 90s pop song. So the reason this is a thing, I know it's nuts, but the reason this is a thing, because Top of the Pops in that time, 1990, 91, had not yet embraced the idea of people playing live, right? It was still all mimed, and frankly, it was nuts that all these amazing stars were in that studio, had travelled across the world to mime. And I read about this because it was on again recently on Top of the Pops on BBC 4. She insisted on singing live that song, and it is the most stunning vocal performance, I think, in Top of the Pops history. You may giggle, Alex, with your Manic Street Preachers records on your bed, but honestly, it's so good, and it's exactly why Top of the Pops had to then get their act together and let people sing live after that point and into the mid-90s and onwards.
I did not have that on my bingo card. No.
I
love it.
It's honestly so emotional and wonderful, and she's just amazing. What a singer.
Oh, brilliant. No, I love that. I remember in the same week that tune came, I think it was the same week, Mariah Carey's first single came out, Vision of Love.
Yes, another banger, really.
I think, yeah absolutely. We were spoilt that week for kind of female vocals.
Wasn't Maria McKee, wasn't Show Me Heaven from Days of Thunder soundtrack?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, and it was very much a slow dance of choice at various discos I went
weddings.
To.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the kind of intensity that she brings to it live is more than it is on the record. So yeah, anyway.
I don't think I could love you anymore, Anna. We do like to get into the geeky snobby. Oh yes, we saw this, but actually, I would be more than happy to lie in the dark in headphones and listen to Maria McKee. Show Me Heaven is the truth, and probably cry. I'll probably cry at the moment, the state I'm in. I'll bawl myself to sleep tonight listening to Maria McKee, and then probably go straight on to Take My Breath Away.
But the final link is Crying Again. So the other live performance I only watched again for the first time earlier this year. So it's Underworld playing Glastonbury in 1998, and it's on YouTube, and it's Born Slippy. I mean, and I was there, and I was 19, and
so
I'm in the crowd. Yeah. So well, we were. I mean, can you remember? I was sort of to the side on the right.
I was bang central, about a third back.
With your DMs in the air.
Yeah, I probably would have had DMs on. Yeah, you're right.
So it's that performance, and I listened to it again. I don't know what made me Google it like earlier this year. Actually, it would have been when I was doing my lockdown LPs thing, and I was thinking about Glastonbury back in the day, and I found it, and I was looking for myself in the crowd. It's too hard to see, but I know I'm there, and seeing it and hearing it and remembering what an amazing night that was did make me sit at this screen here and cry a little bit on my own watching Underworld. So, yeah.
I stand, salute, clap, cry, cheer that choice and the Doble, but we have to come to an end, and I can't wait for us to create the webpage and your playlist, because there is so
Don't forget
much
my
wonderful
review,
stuff
age
that
16.
you've. And
Oh.
yes,
It's finally going to find its audience.
it is. It is.
I can't wait to read it. I cannot wait.
No,
Oh my
it's
God.
totally brilliant. It's totally brilliant.
Love
I
it.
love that you did that. Anna, thank you so much. What a pleasure.
Anna Doble there. Oh, what a guest.
Yeah,
Absolutely brilliant.
Geek, music geek. I'm proud of it. So she should be. And so I think it's fair for me to say that the queens of the Gig Stories podcast are not you and I, Chris, but they are now Anna Doble, Sophie Williams.
Yeah.
They are our superiors. However, neither of them quite yet have an Excel spreadsheet of their gigs.
No, more fool them. More fool them.
More fool them. And
Yeah.
what I loved was when we said that, you just went, well, it's in the shoebox, because she's got the shoebox of all those tickets.
Absolutely.
And you were just merely pointing out that you could have a spreadsheet because it's right there in your shoebox, Anna.
Exactly. It's like her saying, I'd love a cake, and go, well, you've got the flour, you've got the eggs, you've got the sugar, you've got a little bit of milk, you've got an oven.
Come
what are you on
on.
about? Bake the cake.
Yeah. Don't know what she's
That's a really odd analogy, but anyway, it's the first that came to mind, and I'm gonna go with
keeping that in.
Yeah,
we're keeping it in.
Also, I meant to tell you that Anna emailed me the review that she wrote.
Yes.
And so we're going to put that on. Well, no, it is on the website right now, as well as a link to her website.
I love
blog.
it.
But also, you must bear in mind, she's asked me to make it clear. She was 16. She was 16 when she wrote this. All right. And
but
I don't know
I'd write that now as a 44-year-old.
I was just thinking that, because when she emailed me that, I thought, well, you don't have to justify it, because it's a lovely piece. I was going to say it's a lovely little piece of writing. That's nice. No, but it's a lovely piece of writing, and for a 16-year-old to you write so succinctly. As a massive fan of a band, you would probably normally, any normal 16-year-old would write pages and pages and write really floridly, but she kept it really concise, and you could tell that she'd also read a lot of NME reviews, because she kept it in that style as well. So no,
succinctly at 16, Lee. I don't know, there's a Morrissey song in there somewhere.
Absolutely.
No, it's brilliant. I love her for doing that, and I loved hearing about her choices, some of the answers to the questions. Deer Hunter and Blur, what a great first gig. I really, really enjoyed that, and I hope you did. So thank you, Anna, and please go and find her and read that blog of hers.
And go to her episode page, because for the first time, so we always do a Spotify playlist. We always do a Spotify playlist where, if it's the member of a band or a singer, then the playlist will generally be music from their back catalogue. And then if it's somebody like Chris Hawkins, or Sophie Williams, there will be a playlist of tunes that we mention in the pod. But Anna has done her own playlist of 10 tracks, and I've added to that with tunes from the playlist as well, from the episode.
Yeah, brilliant.
So this is the first playlist which has actually been, and I hate this word, hate it, curated. It's been curated by Anna. No, everything's curated. You can create a bag of chips nowadays. It's
did you just say create or curate? See, there's your problem.
Exactly. Curated, as in the
Unbelievable.
curator of a museum or a gallery. Yeah, so a playlist has been curated, like festival lineups. It's taken the place of programmed.
There we go, listener. We've been learned today.
We've been learned, yeah. But yeah, so you'll have a festival which has been curated by, not programmed, curated, and yeah, I'm not into it at all.
Wow,
Sorry.
I'll be honest, listener. I'm going to move us on, and I am going to go back to this in private with Chris because this is fascinating. I need to find out the roots of his distrust and dislike of the word curate. Poor curate over there crying in the corner.
The roots are simply the misuse of the English language.
Come on now. We've all had a drink. So anyway, thank you as always for joining us. Please go on the website, check out all the episodes. And as we say, we have videos, pictures, and playlists for every guest. Find us on social media as well, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. And as we chat about the various gigs that we've both been to, but specifically that Chris has been shooting, he's uploading those pictures. So as we said at the start of the podcast, go on now to the website to see Brett Anderson and Co. and Ren Harview and fall in love with Christopher's photographs. Don't know why I felt the need to sing that, but there we are. I think it's a Saturday and we've all had a drink. So
yeah,
I'll leave you all to it.
Saturday at midday. One last thing is, if you are subscribing on Apple, just go to iTunes and click a 5-star. Even if you don't mean it, just click a 5-star. Give us a wee review because it makes it easier for other new listeners to find the podcast. Thank you.
Who cares about integrity, eh? Just press 5 stars.
Yeah, exactly. I don't.
And we'll see you at the next episode. And we've got some exciting news about Christmas guest. And I was going to tell you who our next guest was, but that's not the protocol, is it? That's not the way forward. You'll have to wait. Enjoy this one first, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks. Bye-bye.
See you soon. Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye-bye. Bye, Mo.